Story 1. I walked into a pool at 4. I remember wondering why I couldn't breathe. My aunt jumped in fully clothed to save me, even with her purse. She saved my life. It's a vivid memory. Story 2. A strange man was trying to get me to unlock the car door. What would have happened if I had fallen for it? Story 3. My dad, with whom I no longer communicate for obvious reasons, used to take his chewed-up piece of gum, kiss me on the mouth, and slip it into my mouth with his tongue. Story 4. When I was in elementary school, we had a vehicle following us along our entire school bus route, even when we entered the neighborhoods. Our bus driver, feeling uncomfortable with whoever was following us, started backing the bus into driveways and watching the kids to ensure they got into their houses before pulling out. It was before mobile phones, but I'm sure she quietly radioed something to the school so we wouldn't hear and get anxious. At the time, we thought it was strange that she was backing into driveways. Now I wonder what could have been happening. It would have been bold for a stranger to follow the school bus so openly, but perhaps it was related to a custody dispute. Story 5. I heard my dad in the shower after church, shouting the name of a girl my age he always compared me to. He would use any bad behavior as something she would never do. I had to go out to lunch alone with him right after, acting like I heard nothing, and then finish a final project for high school. Story 6. I saw the fresh wreckage of a crashed bus being towed, still stained with blood and filled with debris. Knowing that everyone on board died makes my stomach sick. Story 7. When I was a paperboy at about 12 years old in 1992, I was collecting the $2 weekly payment on my route. One middle-aged man invited me inside while he went to find the money. He returned and sat in his recliner, silently watching TV while I waited on his couch. After about 10 minutes, I worked up the courage to say I had to be going, and he handed me the $2. Looking back, I wonder if I was in a dangerous situation. It's unsettling to think about. It was a very tense and awkward experience. Story 8. Walking across a frozen pond in the springtime, it was probably only an inch or two thick. I could have easily broken through and drowned. Story 9. My grandmother, who has schizophrenia, would put me and my siblings to sleep. After that, I would hear her talking to herself and someone would respond. Story 10. A girl moved in down the street from me when I was a child. I was instantly captivated. I would stare out my front window and wait until I saw her before leaving my house so we could walk to the bus stop together every day. She ended up being the love of my life and the person I will be buried next to. Story 11. I was on a bus, and a man was staring at me the whole time. I got up to get off the bus and saw him stand up as well. Just then, my phone rang, and he sat back down quickly. I'm so glad my phone rang. Story 12. My mom remarried when I was very young, maybe a year old. Her new husband was physically abusive toward me. Most of my childhood memories are of him yanking me up by one arm until both feet were off the floor. Then he would beat me with his belt while my mom stood there saying, "That's enough," until he finally decided he was done and then dropped me. I would have bruises from my ankles to my neck at times. My great-grandmother once said she was afraid he was going to kill me. Sadly, the terror has stayed prominent in my mind over any good memories. Story 13. Finding out that the figure I feared would jump out of the attic to scare me during the night was actually my mother's former boyfriend. Story 14. I got yelled at a lot for using the bathroom when I was 6 to 8 years old. Honestly, I was afraid of using the bathroom and flushing because of this, so I went to other places. My punishment was a weekend in a diaper and only eating baby food. Among other memories, this always makes me shudder. Story 15. I recall the first time I traveled on a plane at 4 years old with my dad, who has since passed away. Story 16. I visited a small local amusement park and wanted to go on a different ride from my parents and brother, who were getting on a nearby attraction. My parents allowed me to go alone. After I got off the ride and waited for them by the exit, a strange man in his 40s approached me. He complimented my bravery for riding the coaster alone and gave me a large Care Bear. He left before my parents arrived, and I immediately told them about the encounter and showed them the bear. They inspected it thoroughly before allowing me to keep it, but I felt uneasy about it and later donated it to Goodwill a few months later. While I had it, it remained in a closed cabinet in my wardrobe. There was also a night when my mom and I, around 12 years old at the time, went to a local gas station to put air in the tires of our 15-seater van, which we used for camping trips. I was holding the air hose while my mom operated the machine. Suddenly, she stepped in front of me, looking past me. I was confused and turned around to see a car speeding away. She later explained that a man had gotten out of his car, left the passenger door open, and was sneaking up behind me. When she stepped into view, he quickly returned to his car and sped off. Story 17. When I was at the creek near my grandparents' house in the country, my mom went to move a large flat rock to set the baby on in the shallow water. As she started to lift it, a giant water moccasin darted out from under it and slithered away. It still makes me shiver, and that was 62 years ago. Story 18. Believe me or not, I had my name called while I was in my bedroom alone, with nobody upstairs. I heard it clearly twice, and it came from the corner of my room. I froze in absolute fear, fearing that movement would provoke whatever called out to me. My little brother came upstairs and into the bedroom minutes later. I never said anything at the time, just happy to be with another person. I don't tell people because it sounds insane. I have never forgotten that moment, and it still scares me to this day, over 20 years later. Story 19. Being set on fire by my father pouring hand sanitizer on my back and arms after lifting my vest and pinning me to the ground burned for several seconds. My vest slid back down, burned as well, and melted onto my skin, including the plastic zipper, fusing with it. I kept from screaming the whole time because he told me to, or else. My back melted and oozed. I couldn't see properly as it was on my back. Thankfully, he left this evening to pick up my grandparents from the airport, allowing me to take care of it a little, letting it air out instead of putting a shirt over it to hide it. I don't know if it was a second or third-degree burn, as I couldn't go to the hospital for fear that others would learn about it. It hurt for several weeks. I couldn't lie on my back or sides, bend, or hunch. Having a chill hurt extremely, and taking a shower only made my back worse. The elastic of my underwear and bra pressed against the healing area and was painful, while my shirt constantly brushed against it. I didn't see the injury, but I felt it with my hand when I tried to assess it after it happened, and I think one of my vertebrae was exposed and may have been leaking. I suspect it got infected because there is a bump in one spot. I thought I was going to be paralyzed. It was right through my spine. This is far from the worst thing he has done, but it's affecting my daily life. Story 20. Knowing that I had been successful, I would have never seen the number 9. I would have never met my wife, had my daughter, or seen her graduate from college. There is a lot I have accomplished that would not have happened if I had known what I was doing when I didn't. We all have a purpose. Story 21. I was playing hide and seek with some neighborhood kids. The kind of games that feel more intense when you're young. I decided to hide behind an old shed at the edge of the yard. A seemingly clever move, or so I thought. I crouched down, barely breathing, my heart pounding. Then, I swear, I heard whispering. Not loud, just soft, like someone saying my name. I peeked around the shed, and no one was there. Not a single person. But the whisper came again, and I ran. I sprinted, screaming, not caring if I got caught. I never hid near that shed again. Story 22. My sister and I were camping as kids, and I really needed to use the bathroom, so we went to find an outhouse. When we arrived, we knocked on the door, but a man was inside. He threatened to harm me if I didn't stop knocking. Scared both of us, and the memory has stuck with us. The worst part is that our grandmother didn't believe us when we told her and thought we had overactive imaginations. Story 23. My football coaches in high school used to mistreat the schoolgirls in front of everyone during physical education, and nobody ever did anything. The other staff members seemed indifferent, allowing it to happen. I grew up in a very conservative town in a predominantly Republican state. To this day, it unsettles me. I left that town and never looked back. Story 24. I remember looking into the teacher's lounge and seeing them watching television on September 11th. I started making fun of them without really knowing what they were watching. Story 25. One time, in the middle of a busy street, a man picked me up and took me to his car to help him retrieve his keys that were locked inside. Apparently, only my small hands could fit through the little open window space. I was 5 years old. Story 26. When I was young, I was crossing the street with my mother and sister. Midway, I ran to the sidewalk, and when I turned around, a car stopped so quickly that it pushed my sister a bit, causing her to let go of my mom. For those few moments, I thought my mom had died. Thankfully, she didn't. Later, my mom told us that when the car pushed my sister, she thought it had run her over and briefly lost consciousness from fear. Story 27. Here in the Philippines, when someone dies, you visit them 40 days after their passing to say your final goodbye. However, my family couldn't visit my grandfather due to busy schedules, and we forgot about it. When our parents left with my little brother, only the three of us siblings were left. In the middle of the night, my older sister rushed to my room, where my other brother and I slept together, begging to sleep with us but could not tell us why. When we woke up, we asked her again, and she told us that she was begging to sleep with us because she saw our grandfather standing in the doorway looking at her. She was so scared she covered herself with blankets, and when she looked back, he was gone. The dark figure had disappeared. That's why she rushed to our room. She always left the door open when sleeping, and the reason our grandfather probably visited her one last time is that she was his favorite. It still gives me goosebumps to this day because we couldn't visit him, so he did. I miss him so much. Story 28. When I was in elementary and middle school, I actively expressed my feelings of depression and suicidal thoughts to everyone around me, but no adult took any action. I understand that it can be difficult to recognize, but if a 10-year-old told me on multiple occasions that they wanted to die and did not expect to make it to high school, I would take them to a counselor immediately. Story 29. Being put on a plane in the United States by my dad and sent back to Canada, where my mom was notified an hour later that I had returned almost 3 weeks earlier than planned, still makes me shiver and question what he was thinking. Story 30. The time I was followed by a group of guys, probably in their late 20s, while driving home from a grocery store at night, was less than a week after I received my driver's license. Later that summer, while I was out running in the neighborhood, they followed me again. I ended up running into a church to hide, and fortunately, it was Sunday. I had to borrow someone's phone to call my parents to come and get me. It was a bit awkward being in a church wearing a sports bra and spandex running shorts and trying to explain the situation to someone. Story 31. When I was 5, I went sledding down a hill that had a creek at the bottom. I did not know how to make the sled turn, so I went right into the creek. I broke the ice and went under. I was trapped beneath the ice and remember looking up, seeing the sky through the distorted surface. I spotted my dad above the ice as he brought his fist down to break it. I thought he was hitting me, but he was actually breaking the ice. He saved my life, but I was afraid of him for a long time. Story 32. A man took me out of a musical event and kissed me on the lips. I tried to find a dark corner until one of my aunts asked what I was doing outside the main hall. Story 33. Running from my dad only to be cornered, picked up by my ankle, and spanked for something I don't remember now. Or maybe getting a ride home from my dad while he tells my sister and me that we are going to be paddled when we get home. He had tears in his eyes while telling us, as if it hurt him to punish us. If it hurts you, then why do it? What is the point? Story 34. I was 12 or 13 years old when I rode my bike across a semi-busy street without looking. I hit the side of a van and fell off my bike. I brushed myself off and continued riding to my friend's house. Story 35. I saw my mom get thrown through a screen door into our pool. She got out, dried off, and left with my 2 brothers. I called and told my dad he would never see them again if he didn't quit drinking. Story 36. Seeing myself. I don't know if it was a mimic or what, but I was sitting on the floor playing with my dolls in my sister's room while my mom and stepdad were outside doing something when I was about 7 years old. I looked up and saw myself leaning against the door frame with my face pressed against the molding, just like I always had a habit of doing because I liked the cold on my face. I was wearing the same exact red sweater and jeans, the same pigtails, and the same shoes. I didn't think anything of it, just noticed it and continued playing. I didn't realize what I had seen until many years later. I don't know why I even held on to the memory. Maybe my brain just knew it was unusual. Story 37. Every fight between my sister and my dad would hurt her, invalidate her, and make her feel like she was ruining the family. He once brought up her attempt at suicide. I didn't even realize she had tried until he mentioned it. I remembered that she was in the hospital for 5 days, and when my family and I went to pick her up, I skipped my dance rehearsal, even though it was important right before a competition. I didn't know why she was in the hospital and was confused about why she wouldn't talk to him when she got out. It turns out he was sitting right next to her when she tried to overdose. When she fainted, he thought she had fallen asleep. It wasn't until 5 minutes later that my mom came out and asked if she was okay. She didn't respond, so the police were called and she was rushed to the hospital. I was at a dance class at the time, unaware of anything going on. My dad is gone now. I don't know where he is, what he is doing with his life, or even if he is still alive. I couldn't care less either. If you see this, Dad, I have no regard for you. Story 38. I was trying to locate my childhood home the other day using Google Maps Street View. I didn't know the address but guessed it was off one particular road without knowing which intersection it would be at. I started down the road, click by click, on Street View until I saw a school I remembered riding my bike to as a child. I thought if I'm by this school, I went too far. I clicked the turnaround button on Google Maps, and the first thing I saw was my childhood home. I gasped in surprise. Story 39. Walking with my friends, a car pulled up next to us, and the driver offered to take us home. However, all the seats were occupied by other kids, who peered at us with sad eyes. Being the smart aleck I was, I said, even if we wanted to, we couldn't all fit in there. She glanced at the kids and then back at us. She said, forget it, and sped off. I told my mom about it, and I never heard anything about it again. Story 40. In the 1970s, my teenage friends and I encountered men and older boys who were insistent on exposing themselves to us. This happened repeatedly when we walked to the park, shopped, or waited for the school bus. It was overwhelming. Story 41. I fell through a cracked concrete cover of a well when I was 4. It was barely one piece when I stood on top of it, not realizing. Miraculously, I caught the edge and was able to hold on, while my older brother got my mom from the kitchen just steps away. It was a rural well for the house, and I'm not sure how deep it was. It's crazy to think I could have drowned at such a young age over a foolish mistake. Story 42. I heard my mom and brother having loud arguments late at night. Glass was broken, and my name came up occasionally. Story 43. I have no real idea. I know I was difficult when I was younger, but that is behind me now. I have more important matters to attend to. Story 44. One person I know was watching adult content and I saw it. I didn't realize it was adult content at the time. I wondered what the person was doing to the girl. Story 45. I was about 12, playing around at the pool, being typical kids, basically doing everything they tell you not to do. I got pushed into the pool accidentally, hitting my chest against the side as I fell, knocking the breath out of me. I don't know how long I was out, but I remember coming to, and I could hear muffled screaming while I felt strangely calm. Thank God one of my friends jumped in and pulled me out. Afterward, it was as if nothing ever happened. Nobody called for help, but everything about that day is really foggy. Years later, I told my mom about this, and she was upset that I didn't even tell her. That's fair enough. I would have felt the same. Story 46. My brother and I shared a bedroom growing up. I remember waking up one morning and he was sitting up in bed looking shaken. Something had spooked him and I was concerned. I asked him what was wrong and he told me about something strange that happened the previous night. We had slept with the window open since the weather was so cool. He had gone to the bathroom and got back into bed. Just as he was about to fall back asleep, he heard the sound of someone making a pest sound, as if they were trying to get his attention. He heard it again and realized it was coming from the open window. Looking out, he couldn't see anyone but heard a man whispering, "Hey, buddy, want to come out to play?" He didn't scream or call out to our parents down the hall. All he could do was lay there frozen in fear. The mysterious voice kept talking to him through the window, trying to convince him to come outside. He did what any child would do and hid under the covers. The voice stopped and he heard the man walk away. Jumping up, he looked out and saw a figure walking down the street away from our house. He tried to tell our parents, but they brushed it off as a bad dream. Nothing could convince them otherwise. To this day, he still questions if it happened at all. Story 47. Not really a memory, but looking back on old pictures gives me chills. Knowing what I know now, I realize how many decisions I wouldn't have made had I understood the consequences. Story 48. I could have been taken advantage of at the age of 13 if I had followed a stranger in my neighborhood. I ran away. Story 49. First kiss. September 18, 2004. Breaking up with her is easily one of the dumbest things I have ever done in my life. I miss her. Story 50. You feel like this is a small world. You have a simple perspective on life and live more in a fantasy than in reality. Story 51. One day, during extra classes on the weekend, I found a gun in a kid's bag. I thought it was a toy, so I played with it. Then it went bang. Story 52. I was looking out an airplane window and saw a missile slowly moving past the window in the opposite direction of the plane's movement. It was a few feet away and looked like a stereotypical missile. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.